It was supposed to be an ordinary summer morning, one of those calm, easy July days when working parents drop off their kids at daycare, trusting someone else to watch over what matters most in their world. But that morning in Idaho, beneath the hum of an ordinary household, something went terribly wrong. A baby's cry would shatter that calm, and what started as a mother's routine drop-off would spiral into a painful court battle before the sharp eyes and sharper tongue of Judge Judy Sheindlin herself. A year and a half earlier, Mr. and Mrs. Walker had enrolled their 3 children in a small, home-based daycare run by a woman named Miss Scherer. Their oldest was 9, their middle child 5, and their youngest just a tiny infant, only 4 months old that summer. Both parents worked long hours and had come to trust Miss Scherer over nearly 2 years of reliable care. The daycare was small, friendly, and located in a quiet neighborhood. Or so it seemed. When Mrs. Walker arrived on July 2, 2015, everything appeared normal. Her baby boy was smiling, calm, and healthy. She left him with confidence, as she always did, exchanging the usual morning pleasantries with Miss Scherer before heading off to work. The daycare seemed busy that day. Children laughing, some running in the living room, others sitting at a table drawing. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But within hours, that peace was broken by a phone call no mother ever wants to receive. Miss Scherer's voice was shaky on the line. The baby wouldn't stop crying, she said. He'd been fussy all morning, and no matter what she tried, nothing soothed him. Alarmed, Mrs. Walker rushed back, sensing something wasn't right. By the time she arrived, her baby's cries had turned weak and hollow. Something was clearly wrong with his leg. He wouldn't move it, and when she touched it, he screamed in pain. Within hours, doctors confirmed what every parent dreads hearing. Her 4-month-old's leg was broken. The question was, how? When the case reached Judge Judy's courtroom, the tension was thick. Mrs. Walker and her husband sat quietly, their faces tight with emotion. On the other side, Miss Scherer appeared nervous but defensive, clutching her paperwork as if it could somehow protect her. Judge Judy, ever composed but alert, wasted no time cutting through pleasantries. So, Miss Scherer, the judge began sharply, you were caring for this child, and by your own admission, between 10 and 12 others that day. Who was there helping you? My husband, she replied. Period? Yes, the judge raised an eyebrow. You had up to 12 children, including your own, and only your husband to help? Yes, Your Honor. And you were charging $20 per child per day? That's correct. Mrs. Walker's voice was steady but hurt. We were paying $350 every 2 weeks, she explained. I didn't know how many kids she was taking in. I just knew there were others. Judge Judy's sharp mind began connecting the dots. This wasn't just about one baby's injury. It was about overcrowding, negligence, and misplaced trust. The defense's story was that the 9-year-old brother, one of Mrs. Walker's own children, had been playing rough with the baby. Miss Scherer admitted that she saw the older boy holding his baby brother on the floor, lifting his legs, and twisting him back and forth. The courtroom gasped. Judge Judy's expression hardened. And what did you do? She asked in disbelief. I told him to please stop, the daycare provider said quietly. Please stop? Judge Judy echoed, incredulous. You were responsible for this child's safety. You saw a 9-year-old twisting an infant's legs and you asked him to stop? The silence that followed was deafening. Judge Judy leaned forward. You understand, Miss Scherer, that's not supervision. That's neglect. The story grew even murkier. The daycare worker's written statement claimed she had been in the kitchen cooking lunch while this happened. She described the home as an open floor plan, kitchen and living room connected, yet somehow she hadn't seen the moment the injury occurred. Judge Judy wasn't buying it. The rest of the hearing turned into a masterclass in accountability. The Walkers explained that they had tried to get help through a state victims' compensation fund, but the agency ruled there wasn't enough evidence to prove the baby's injury had been intentional. Still, the bills piled up, hundreds of dollars in medical expenses, therapy, and time off work. When Judge Judy finally spoke again, her tone softened slightly toward the parents. You brought your children to someone you trusted, she said, and you were entitled to expect that trust to be respected. Then, turning back to the defendant, she added coldly, but when you decide to run a daycare, you take on more than children. You take on responsibility. You don't just cook lunch and hope the older kids behave. You watch them. That's the job. The courtroom atmosphere shifted again as another case file appeared before Judge Judy. this time involving a different woman named Ms. Rodriguez, a mother whose dog had bitten a child. It was a separate dispute, but the theme was familiar: carelessness, excuses, and avoidance of responsibility. Rodriguez claimed her dog, Nala, had only reacted protectively when a neighborhood boy startled her from behind while she was walking with her baby in a stroller. But the paperwork told a different story, one she had signed under oath. Judge Judy read it aloud, line by line, catching the defendant in her contradictions. "When you tell the truth," Judy said firmly, "you don't have to have a good memory." The courtroom chuckled nervously, but Judy wasn't laughing. She dissected every inconsistency in Rodriguez's account, exposing how her story had changed from her sworn statement to her live testimony. In the end, it wasn't just about a dog bite or a broken leg. It was about something bigger: the cost of carelessness and the refusal to admit fault. Judge Judy saw it all too often: people who wanted to be trusted but didn't want to be held accountable when that trust was broken. She looked directly at Rodriguez and gave her a final warning. "If you sense your dog is agitated," she said, "you move. You don't ask a child to walk around you. You protect the people around you. That's your responsibility." Then she delivered the verdict with characteristic precision. Judgment for the plaintiff at $2,500. The gavel came down. The room fell silent. For a moment, even Rodriguez looked humbled. Judge Judy didn't shout or scold. She just looked at her and said, "Be careful with that baby. The dog's not dangerous until it is." As the Walkers gathered their belongings and left the courtroom earlier that day, Mrs. Walker carried herself with quiet dignity. She had trusted someone with her child, and that trust had been shattered. But she had also been heard. In a world where excuses often drowned out truth, Judge Judy had cut through the noise and reminded everyone what mattered most: accountability. The lesson that echoed through the courtroom that day was simple but powerful. Whether you're caring for a dozen children or walking a single dog, responsibility doesn't pause for convenience. It demands attention, awareness, and honesty. Because once trust is broken, whether by negligence or denial, the consequences ripple far beyond the moment they began. And as Judge Judy's gavel echoed one final time, the truth stood firm: sometimes justice isn't just about money. It's about a reminder, loud, clear, and unforgettable, that when you choose to care for others, you must truly care.